It's my pleasure today to introduce Dr. Teferi Tsegaye. Dr. Teferi Tsegaye is one of our children or sons who have come home. He was my first PhD student many, many years ago when I first got here. And it's a case of the student far exceeding his teacher. So, in his accomplishments. Teferi's National Program Leader for Water Resources, Water Availability and Watershed Management. He's part of the Senior Executive Staff for USDA Agricultural Research Service. As that, he directs research at approximately 29 ARS laboratories across the U.S. related to effective water management, erosion, sedimentation, water quality, conservation effectiveness, and improving watershed management and ecosystem services. After he left University of Maryland, he became a faculty member at Alabama A&M University, and there he established a nationwide net of monitoring stations using weather stations and satellite. And he advanced to full professor through those ranks. And then he left there and became dean at Kentucky State University and vice president of land grant programs in the College of Agricultural, Food Services, and Sustainable Systems. He did that for quite a number of years, and then he went to work for ARS in 2016 in his present position. Before he became an administrator as a scientist, he secured over 40 million competitive grants, 87 refereed journal articles, 100 refereed abstracts. He's a fellow of the ASA, SSSA. He's a graduate of the Food System Leadership Institute, Millennium Leadership Institute, and the African Scientific Institute. So we're very happy to have Teferi back. It's nice to have someone we know who's leading the nation in agricultural research. So I'll turn it over to Teferi.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. It's a privilege to be part of back to College Park. It is my alma, and I'm very grateful to Dr. Hill for his mentorship. The place where I am right now is because of his support, and others also, Dr. Lebenhorst and others. All of those make a big impact on my, position where I am right now. And I'm very grateful for the department, the support that they provided me when I was a graduate student there. I was in full assistantship there, and I graduated from there, and I did my postdoc also at College Park with Dr. Hill and Dr. Harold Van Ness also, and from Cornell. So it was a great time for me that I spent at College Park. So with that, I'll try to highlight a few things for today's presentation. My name is Teferi Tsegaye again, and I am the National Program Leader for Water Resources for ARS, and I am also a lead for a Conservation Effects Assessment Project, which is CEAP, and in the LTAR networks, which is a long-term agroecosystem research networks. So I lead basically these three topic areas nationally. So I'll, let me see if I can advance this. So my presentation today, the outline, I'll briefly talk about ARS, our organizational structure, and the three programs that I currently lead, which is water availability and watershed management, the long-term agroecosystem research network, and the ARS conservation effects assessment project. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with ARS. It is not our Office of National Program. It's not very far from Beltsville, College Park, about 3-4 miles, not very far from where you are. ARS is basically the in-house research arm of USDA. And currently we have over 2,000 scientists. That includes postdocs and 6,000 other employees. And our current research locations is 90 plus. Our budget is almost 1.4 billion. We have 690 research projects, 15 national programs, and we do all of the research activities in partnership with universities and industries. The mission of ARS is to conduct research to ensure high quality, safe food and other products, assess the nutritional needs of Americans, sustain a competitive agricultural economy, enhance the natural resource base and the environment, and finally, to provide economic opportunities to rural citizens and society as a whole. Within ARS, the office, is spread across whole nation. We have 5 area offices: a northeast area where we are located in Beltsville, the southeast area, the Midwest area, the Plains area, and Pacific West area. These are 5 areas, area offices. So we have area, office administrators and staff. We also have international offices in France, Italy, Greece, Australia, China, and Argentina. Under the ARS, we have 4 national programs, divided in Beltsville, the Office of National Program. Nutrition, Food Safety and Quality is the first one. Animal Production and Protection is the second one. Crop Production and Protection is the third one. And the fourth one is Natural Resources and Sustainable Agricultural Systems. We have deputy administrators, associate administrators for the ARS Office of National Program. Our deputy administrator is Dr. Marlon Eve. And we have 5 national program leaders within natural resources and sustainable agricultural systems. So the national programs and national program leaders, mainly our duty is to coordinate, communicate, and empower the research scientists across the US. So we basically focus on the relevance, impact, and quality of the research that we currently do within ARS. The natural resource and sustainable agricultural systems housed in that program, national program. The water availability and watershed management, we call it NP2 National Program 211. Soil and air is NP2 12. Pasture, forage, and rangeland systems is NP2 15. And agricultural systems competitiveness and sustainability is NP2 16. We have this number associated with the national programs. We have, with the natural resources area, we have 423 scientists currently working, 123 research projects, and we cover 59 locations. So the water availability and watershed management vision is integrated, effective, and safe water resource management. We have our mission and goal. So I'm not going to go and read this to you, but we have a vision, mission, and goal for the water availability and watershed management. The ONP, or the national program, every 5 years we submit CRIS projects, which is a 5-year plan. So we just finished the national program 211 action plan. We have stakeholders listening. We have 5 listening sessions across the US. We invited stakeholders, producers, and federal partners, everybody who is interested on a water research program. We invited them. So we have about 800 inputs that we received nationally, and we identified the priority from those 800 inputs, and decided to put those in action plans. So our action plan is ready for implementation. So we are going to implement the action plan, we started in 2021 until 2025. So within the water program, we have 36 ARS-led projects, 299 cooperative research projects. This is where we bring universities as partner, and we pass through some funds for collaborative work, or we get some funding from outside source. So we have, under the water program, we have 299 cooperative research projects. So it's a huge activity within the water resource area. And there is also $62 million congressional appropriation allocated for the water program. Currently, I'm overseeing 126 full-time scientists and 26 locations. These are the programs where I oversee the water programs. In some states, you may have more than one topic areas. In some states, could be one. So it covers from the east all the way to west and north to south, basically. So the components for the NP211, the first one is effective water management in agriculture. The second one is erosion, sedimentation, and water quality protection. The third one is conservation practices in agricultural watersheds. And the fourth one is watershed management to improve agroecosystem services. So under each component area, we have problem statement areas. So we may have 5 different topics or 6 different topics like irrigation, drainage, and other. So these are the main component areas we focus under the water resource. So I'm going to shift my gear. I'm trying to give you a highlight, overview of the water program. Now I'm going to shift to the long-term agroecosystem research network, which is a 30+ years research project initiated in 2012. So the primary goals of the LTAR is to develop scientifically based information technologies, management practices that increase production efficiency. And second is preserve and enhance non-production ecosystem services such as biodiversity, water quality, and so on. And then the third topic area that we are working on under LTAR is to promote rural prosperity, improve quality of life, social and economic resilience. So the LTAR network formed in 2012, it's about 30+ years, experiment that we are conducting, hoping somebody will take it from me. I'm not going to last 30+ years. So 18 current sites and about 300, over 300 scientists working under LTAR, hosted by USDA ARS laboratories and partners also like Archibald Station in Florida, in the University of Florida, and Michigan State University is a Kellogg Biological Station. Maybe some of you know about KBS, and University of Nebraska in Lincoln. So, and then we have a funded program, a budget, is coming every year. Each location will get about $1 million per year. So every year they will get $1 million. We are in a discussion to increase this funding. 1 million is not sufficient. So we are constantly asking for additional funding from Congress. So as I said, we have 18 sites, under the LTAR network. The data, is, the record that we have under this network sites it depends from a 12-year to 100 years. So the critical part of LTAR is we need to have a data availability for becoming considered to be an LTAR site. So that is a history. Data has to be there. So for example, Pullman, Washington, they have about 20 years data now. And then the Las Cruces and Walnut Gauge, over 100 years of data that they have. The area that we are covering on this experiment is, from 0.57 square kilometer to 60 to 100 square kilometer, that's Ames, Iowa. So we are also co-located with NEON. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the National Ecological Observatory Network, which is funded by NSF. We cover, co-located with 11 of those out of 17 in the lower 48 states. We also cover the major drainage basins. We cover 12 out of 18 in lower 48 states. Also, we are in the farm resource regions, 8 out of 9, So the network sites is basically represent 49% of cereal production, 30% of forage production, 32% of livestock production of the United States. Capture, primary types of production systems, on these networks, and gradients in climate, biomes, and inherent productivity. So again, the data is crucial. We have data collected from this across the US, these locations, 20 to 106 years of data. These are the co-located and LTAR network with other networks. As you see, LTAR is in red, but we are co-located with a National Science Foundation, LTAR, the National Science Foundation, CZO, which is Critical Zone Observatory network, and the NEON network. So this help us to share data, information, and share expert science and other things with these network scientists. Recently, actually, we had a joint conference which is led by LTAR, and we identified about 7 topic areas that we can work together with this network scientists. LTAR is a research operation. It is, as you see on this picture, we cover so many things. We have working groups, common experiments, common measurements. We have outreach activities, and we are also engaged with agriculture innovation partnership. We call it, PDI. Also, it is in-house. That we collaborate with ISRI, Microsoft, and you name it. We have a lot of collaboration under the umbrella of LTAR. There is a data management group, and we develop new management technologies. We develop precision environmental tools and all kinds of things. So we basically work hand in hand with our stakeholders. For example, we have what we call the Living Lab initiative. It is basically engaging stakeholders from the time of we start experiment to, providing, the ultimate, product for the producers so they can implement it. So why network is needed, why we need this LTAR? Basically, it's shared ideas and technologies that accelerate, progress to local outcomes. And we also look into common indicators and data sets to scale up information. We do a lot of scaling from a field to county to region to continental kind of analysis using this data, and also to understand basically connection among distant agroecosystems and consumers. We need this data. Basically we use all of those under this LTAR network. LTAR is very young. It's about 8 years, not actually 10 years. So during this, it is becoming more transformational. Scientists are collaborating, basically who never have interacted without the LTAR network. And then a lot of innovations are coming from this, research and engagement. And it is basically unprecedented overview of US agricultural sustainability for a long term. The LTAR network mechanics, how we handle, we have what we call the common experiment, and then they have a number of working groups. Right now, we have about 21 working groups. And then we have also the data management team, embedded under LTAR. And then we have our own internal, governance and coordination. So I will highlight each aspect of it. So the common experiment is basically focusing on the business as usual production system. That is basically common practice that have limited sustainability or that can be improved. Basically what the producer is currently applying to his farming system. The aspirational production system is a greater productivity, cost efficiency, and the resiliency with similar reduced environmental impact. This is what we try to introduce, a new innovative idea to what the farmer is doing. So we compared the business as usual and the aspirational type. So this requires common indicators and data management structure, for the research activity. So just to give you an example, the LTAR, Jornada, trade-offs, and pasture ranch scales. This is the beef production systems, in Jornada. If you look at this picture, the aspirational and production system and the business as usual production system, we compare the different indicators, basically the biodiversity under the business as usual as versus aspirational one. A rancher free time hours, soil organic carbon, water use efficiency, net returns in terms of dollar for the carcass weight, or yield, calf, wind hectare per year. So these are some of the indicators that we look at the different research, the business as usual versus aspirational one. So the working groups, basically, we have, like I said, 21 working groups. Primary mechanism for network activities. We coordinate all of these activities through this working group. It's self-organized and coalesce around specific agricultural problems and tools, and develop or improve research methods, models, and tools, again, under these working groups. Carry out basically coordinated large-scale data collection and provide the infrastructure to analyze data and disseminate information. So this working group is a key component of the LTAR network. As you see here, the working groups, we have different projects, the wind erosion, is one aspect of the working group, manure shed, phenology, stocks and flows. These are the project working group. And then we have this coordination, research coordination, like the common experiment, which is a cropland, grazing work, grazing lands working group, human dimension. This is a new area that we are exploring currently and bringing social scientists. ARS in the past, we don't have any social scientists, but bringing now new social scientists to ARS research activities becoming a must for us, otherwise without the economics, the social scientists, we don't know how to, evaluate, whether the producers are adopting what we provide to them through our research, activities. And then there is a modeling, a lot of modeling work that we do. And there are research methodologies also, under this working group, including biological, eddy covariance, weather and climate, hydrology, livestock, tracking system, and CO2 gases, remote sensing, NGIS working group, the soils working group, and others, So we have support, a working group, and embedded under LTAR, the communication, and the strategies working group, a data management group, and the information management task force. So we have a number of working groups under LTAR. So, like I said, the data management, we collect all of this data, and it is stored under Ag Data Commons. It is part of the National Ag Library, which I'm sure most of you are familiar, with the National Ag Library. That's where we house, most of the data. And we collect basically diverse data types, as you can see, hydrology, meteorology, phenology, soil, fluxes, you name it. We collect all kinds of data, and that data is stored on a repository, under Ag Data Common. So these data managers their key role is, make sure that the data that's coming from the different locations will be, formatted in a uniform condition and stored in a common place where scientists can go and grab it, when they need to do some analysis. So governance, and coordination for the LTAR network, network led, basically I'm the chair and the national program lead for this network. And then we have also a vice chair, under the LTAR, a scientist from the field. It will be, taking every rotation, probably every year, it's a 1-year term. And then a leadership team is selected from these 18 locations, 8 additional scientists. It's a 3-year term. That makes decision on later, LTAR network vision and programs. And we have a site leadership also. The PIs, of each of the 18 LTAR sites, will be the participants on this, under the governance and coordination. So the network activities, basically led by leadership team, and continually, this leadership team refine vision and policies for the network. And then, we initiate network level activities, we review proposals, when a new site is seeking to be, to be admitted into LTAR network. we evaluate annual plans, annual reports from sites and the working groups. So we evaluate and then give them feedback. So if they do good, we say you are doing great. We give them a thumb up, up. If not, they will, be asked to do more. So the other activities maintain, intra-network communications, awareness through teleconference and annual meetings. So we have also, we recently hired, an LTAR coordinator, Dr. Tiff Van Hessen. She is in, helping the executive task of the leadership team, and her duty station in Fort Collins, but she will move around and meet, and visit, the locations, the 18 locations, coordinate all of the activities under the LTAR team. So you can see what LTAR is all about. This is a very high level presentation that I'm giving you, but there are 4 priority areas of concern under LTAR. So we focus on agroecosystem productivity, climate variability and change. This year we are anticipating some funding to come from congressional, we are still on CR waiting for a budget pass, from Congress. So we anticipate there is a lot of activities we are going to, expand our research, scope on climate variability and change. There is also conservation and environmental quality. That's another area of concern. And so socioeconomic viability and opportunities also another area of concern. So we are addressing these 4 areas. So what are some of the key products from LTAR network? New knowledge of process and systems. Again, we work on a systems approach in anything we do. New technologies and management practices. Improved agroecological models. Again, probably most of you are familiar. We developed several tools and models like SWATs, AGNEPs, APEX, you name it. We have so many tools, and decision support tools that we develop. Improved agroecological models. This is an area, we are revisiting some of the models. You may be aware about Russell, Webb, and the wind erosion, RAM, which is a rangeland hydrology and erosion models. So we develop, these models, and we constantly improve these models. We are in, actually develop a strategic vision for erosion science model. When I joined in 2016, the first task I took was to revamp the erosion science model. So I brought a number of scientists from ARS locations and revisit, what is, what we did in the 80s and then now where we are, and then now we're, trying to improve those models and rewrite some of the code. So that's in the pipeline. So the other key products is improved improved agroecological models I mentioned, and then build comprehensive and accessible data through this research network. So that's data is going to be available probably every after 2 years. Once we gather that data, once the scientists publish, it is going to be accessible to the public, so anybody can access and use that data from the common database. So LTAR involvement and productivity this past year, I can highlight this. On the Basecamp, we use Basecamp for our communication. We have over 468 people, participants in Basecamp. We have we published over 190 peer-reviewed publication. LTAR also leveraged support from 56 extramural grants and 21 partner projects. And sites applied for 12 additional grants to support LTAR research. So LTAR is not dependent on the funding that we are getting from Congress, but we also partner with university and other private, and federal partners and submit proposals and secure significant grants. So we have a very high reputation to secure grants. So this is an opportunity, an area for collaboration. LTAR will be a great place for collaboration, and I encourage the faculty, staff, and students to look at, LTAR, again, the Beltsville Hydrology and Remote Sensing Lab and the Sustainable Ag System Lab in Beltsville. They are a designated LTAR location, so there is opportunity for the University of Maryland College Park, in my department, I will say that, to be, part of this team to work together and make progress on the, LTAR activities. So these are some of the network publications this past year came. So it's a number of publications, like I said, over 190, but a few of them were highlighted here on our water quantity. We did a water budget for the entire US, a grazing land publication, phenology network publication, a manure shed publication, and then the social science aspect of the human dimension publication. So there's so much publication came out. So if you are interested, please visit the LTAR website. So currently we have 60 colleges and universities partner with LTAR network, 15 US government agencies, 12 state government agencies, 11 established research networks, 25 non-governmental organizations, 19 private industries or associated organizations, and then 29 international collaborations. And when you say international, we are partnering with Ag Food Canada, which is similar to US, Department of Agriculture in Canada. We work together, we share information, we exchange ideas. They are also attending our monthly calls, and they participate on our annual meetings every year. So this past 3 years, because of COVID, we couldn't have that joint conference, in person, but they come and attend through our virtual, Zoom meeting. So this coming year, we are gonna, the Pullman, Washington ARS location is gonna host this meeting. In fact, this March, March 1st and to 3rd, the Ag Food Canada is hosting similar kind of workshop. I'm invited to be part of that panel discussion. So they are very good in some areas. We try to learn from them, and they are also trying to learn from us. At the same time, we are also with the G20 countries, in England, France, Germany. They are also trying to learn from us, and we are trying to work with them. So we have a lot of collaboration, engagement on remote sensing, work for validation of their satellite network and things like that. So there's a lot of collaboration with federal agencies, NASA, EPA, Department of Energy, you name it, BLM. So we do quite a lot and quite a lot of engagement with stakeholders. So with that, I'm going to switch to the ARS Conservation Effects Assessment Project, which is CEAP. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that also. It's a research and technology delivery partnership having impacts on the land. And this is in partnership with NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Service. Funding is coming from NRCS to ARS, and ARS will implement the research activity on the watersheds. For example, the watershed that in Maryland is a chop tank watershed. I know some of my colleagues and scientists, Dr. Kathleen Hepman and Dr. Greg McCarthy, they have a lot of collaboration with the University of Maryland College Park, and also the Hydrology and Remote Sensing Lab. They do a lot of collaboration with Geography Department with Dr. Chris Justice and this GeoGLAM program. So there's with an NASA Harvest, there is a lot of work on taking place. So what is CEAP? CEAP is basically, it's it came through the Farm Bill in 2003. Since 2003, a CEAP watershed study is conducted throughout the US, and the CEAP involves more than 60 ARS scientists, plus additional technical support staff working in 18 benchmark watersheds across the US. Currently, we increased these watersheds in the CEAP watersheds, and one in Vermont, is added through the University of Vermont, and another 2 in California. One is in Parlier, California, under ARS lab, and then the other one is in Davis, California. They have also a new unit that I established in Davis, a water unit. It's probably less than 2 years since it was established. Again, that's a new unit focused more on managed aquifer recharge. And as you know, the drought is severe in California, Arizona, and those areas, the western US. So we are trying to conserve water, and recharge groundwater. So we hired actually 4 scientists. We are trying to hire 2 more scientists for that unit. So the opportunity for graduate students, is great. There's so much in water arena, water area. So we are currently hiring a number of scientists across the water program. So there's opportunity for some of the graduate students. Please, encourage you to look into an ARS for future opportunity. So CEAP is mainly the goal is to quantify and establish the scientific understanding of the effects of conservation practice at the watershed scale. And also the second goal is to estimate conservation effects and benefits at regional and national scales. So we conduct this research on all these watersheds. Some of them are small watersheds, some of them are large watersheds. But now, since I came on board, now we are changing the direction also, a new approach taking, instead of looking at the specific watershed, what can we do to scale it up further and see on a regional scale or continental scale, assessment of the watershed. How do they behave? How do they is there an improvement, in water quality or other? So this is related to hypoxia, the algal bloom and other things. So we look at those, nutrient transport, nutrient movement, all that, and then the impact on the watershed as a whole. So there's a number of research, taking place within ARS, and some of them are university partners. So ARS watershed assessment study, the objectives is to develop and implement a data system. And this data, once it is gathered from each watershed, it will be housed again in the National Ag Library. That's where we gather all the data, and anyone interested to look at this data, they can access this data. Basically every 2 years, it's free for anybody to use it as well. So they measure effects of conservation practices at the watershed scale, and also validate models and quantify uncertainty of model prediction. Again, we use a number of models here, like SWAT, Apex and AgNEPS, and so many other models. And through this models also, we try to develop policy planning tools to optimize profits and program efficiency. Again, ARS is not a policy making decision organization. We are a research organization. We don't get into policy and others. So we pass this information to NRCS. NRCS will implement it by working with stakeholders, producers. So we develop also regional watershed models. So these are the conservation effects and locations across the US. Like I said, we have over 18 watershed studies. So CEAP watershed studies mainly focus on field level effects and offsite effects, and the human dimensions aspect. Basically we look at adoption and the economics of these the watersheds, what is happening in the watershed. So we want to quantify things, happening through these different management techniques. So in summary, CEAP covers 18 watersheds, but this watershed is now growing to 20. I didn't change that, make that adjustment. Significant geographic extent across the US, and important linkage to other networks and programs. Again, we coordinate these activities. You remember I mentioned we coordinate with NEON, CZO, LTAR, and others. So CEAP also is coordinating this effort with other networks. CEAP is about basically documenting the effects of conservation. So we implement different conservation practices and evaluate the, experiment, every year. And we just published the lesson that we learned over 20 years, recently on the Soil and Water Conservation Society journal. So we have 20 years, lesson that we learned. We use the information from CEAP to enhance the effects of conservation on the landscapes, and the CEAP as a whole serve as a research platform to help solve future problems for US agriculture. So with that, I will stop my talk, and I'll be happy to answer any question you may have. And I encourage you to visit, the ARS website, the LTAR website, and there's so much opportunity for.
His mic got cut off.
Park, and when I was in Oklahoma State University, I did my undergrad and master's from Oklahoma State University before I came to the University of Maryland. But the University of Maryland is a great place for most of you probably may know. It's a great place because they are very close to ARS, the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center, and Washington, DC area. Is so much opportunity to explore. So there is so many scientists, you can work with, and feel free to visit us. The opportunity there. We try to bring graduate students to work with us. Even at ONP, Office of National Program, we brought some students from University of Maryland to work with us. So with that, I will give time for questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So now I'm going to ask, are there any questions from the audience here? You can also take questions from folks on Zoom.
So hi Teferi, I'll ask a question if that's okay.
Hey, please.
So I wanted to ask, what's the best way to, because there's a lot of action going on within ARS, and sometimes there's too much information, so it's kind of hard to know what will be the best way if you're interested in certain programs. What's the best way to approach, and who should someone approach to connect with?
I'll tell you this, from my experience, since I came on board to ARS in 2016, there is so much resource, so much opportunity, but there should be a visit, faculty, the dean's office. I know you are our stakeholders, and everybody's our stakeholder, for ARS. So a visit is important to meet with, administrators, with us, national programs, and then, visit also Washington, So it's a matter of a call, or and send I would like to come and visit, and if you would like to come and chat with us, we are open. We can schedule the time, and then if a collective people can come from University of Maryland, we can arrange with deputy administrators, the associate administrators, even the administrator, and then eventually you can even meet, higher level, REE undersecretaries and things like that. So the opportunity there. So you are not very far, people are coming from California, Oregon, everywhere, the college, they come and visit and say, this is an area where we could collaborate. And then, we can identify a potential area for resource sharing. Mm-hmm. So there's so much opportunity. And for graduate students, there's so much you can learn in Beltsville, in all national program areas, whether it's animal production, food system, natural resource, crop production. I remember probably Dr. Levenhorst, Jose Costa. He used to be there, recently he retired, but he used to be a professor at College Park. So we have some knowledge about University of Maryland. I know, to me, University of Maryland is dear. So I'll be glad to facilitate any discussion that you are interested. Please feel free to contact me in any program area, and not only in natural resource, any program area that you want. So we communicate, the national program leaders, we are about 15 of us. We share information, and then we ask them to engage with the faculty or students or anybody. So feel free to contact me and I will connect you.
Okay, that sounds good. Maybe I'll bring Bob along.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So if you remember on my presentation, I put about 299 agreements, okay? That those agreements are basically, it's incoming or outgoing agreements. So we sometimes push money to university or other, because if you don't have internal scientists who can, tackle that issue. So if a university partner or faculty can do it, we pass to the university and the funding will go to the university, and through that 5-year term, they can work on that project with the scientist. And the same thing, we push some postdocs, graduate student supports, all kinds of things. So
I think time's about up, Teferi. I think we're going to have to give up the room.
Okay.
Isn't that right, Marty?
Yeah, so technically, roughly 10 minutes, but people have started to try to come in, so I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Are there any more questions? I think we can definitely take at least one more question from the audience, if there's one. If anyone on Zoom has a question, please also feel free to jump in.
There is one question, Taras,
Yes, I just wanted to use an opportunity to say hello to University of Maryland. I'm from Agriculture Canada. You mentioned Living Labs before. I'm also a graduate, former graduate student of Robert Hill. I graduated in 2014, so it's a long history and great to see this connection. But I wanted to say that as part of Living Labs, I'm leading two research sites, which we hope will continue to turn into the long-term sites. We learned a lot from you guys at LTAR as we try to do something similar here in Canada. And I think, I'd be happy to, collaborate on any future opportunities. I know you're scheduled to present in the upcoming meeting in March. And it was great to learn that there is this common connection. There is, as you know, there is also a great deal of long-term studies in Canada. Well, they're on temperate soils and moist soils that can add a lot of information and result in the lessons learned that we can do together as two networks that cover pretty much the larger part of the North American continent. So, yeah, I just wanted to use that opportunity to introduce and say hello to you and everybody else in Canada, in Maryland.
Thank you, Taras. I'm working very closely with the, Francois Christian. He's my counter from Ag Food Canada. So I have a great partnership and we're working together. So looking forward to interact with you. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and a great presentation, very inspiring. Yeah,
thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
So I think with that, we'll wrap it up. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.